Ladies and gentlemen,
this is Gamertag Radio.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm here with a couple of guests here from MediaWise. Alex, how you doing, Alex?
I'm doing really good. How are you all?
Good. And also, we have Dave here. Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. I know you've been doing this for a while, too. Not playing games, but
yeah. Well, let me see. I first started playing Super Mario Brothers. No, my name's Dave. I used to be a journalist at the Washington Post, and I started the TikTok account there, and that's where I first became a MediaWise ambassador, which is sort of the sponsoring this stream. And since then, I've gone independent. You may have seen me on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram Reels with short-form videos, usually covering misinformation or some aspect of the news that people don't understand. So I'm excited. I'll bring that expertise to the call, and then everything else is just going to be following Danny so I don't run into a storm and die.
Thanks for joining us. And also, we have Rihanna here. Actually, she going to be playing with us, too, and we're going to be talking about a lot of topics here about misinformation and all that stuff. So
I didn't actually introduce myself. Like, Dave got to do a big introduction. And I'm just like, I'm Alex. I'm Alex Mahadavan. I work at MediaWise, which is a media literacy organization that helps millions of people of all ages around the world separate fact from fiction online. We also do a lot of AI literacy work. That's my big spiel. But my background is I was also a journalist like Dave back in the day. I was a local news reporter, data journalist, video guy. Basically, I was always the young person in the room, in newsrooms. So I always played around the tech. So that's how I ended up on AI faculty at Pointer.
Ooh, nice. We definitely have some great questions to you guys about all this, man. And also Rihanna's here too, Gamertag Radio co-host. So what's up, Ree? We ready for this?
Hi. Yeah, I'm ready. Quick intro for me. I'm Rihanna MP, Danny's better half, and together we are two of the newest ambassadors as MediaWise. It has been increasing their roster and focusing on helping to control and fight misinformation in the gaming space. And we're so excited to talk about that today while we hopefully get some dubs, right? Dave is going to carry us. And
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to win.
I mean, Dave is a pro. I mean, I'm learning from Dave. I'm going.
Yeah. That's
this is a great way for us to start a conversation before our match starts. But Gamertag Radio actually we're turning 21 years. I remember when I started Gamertag Radio at that time. It wasn't like how it is now with like algorithm, and now it's so much easier to see a lot of like misinformation online from all kind of topics, right? How can you tell? For like the average person, how do they can tell that when something is not real and something is real, and how we could do a better research before sharing that type of content to the audience?
Well, that's a great question and a great way to start off this conversation, because the first thing is to recognize how much the algorithms have quote unquote improved over the last 20 plus years. Like when Facebook launched, there was no newsfeed, there was no algorithm. It was just, it was just you chatting with your friends. But now your entire online experience is designed specifically to sell you things, keep you engaged, and keep you on a platform, on a place, pretty much everywhere you go. And that feeds into why you see so much mis and disinformation. And that is because you essentially get sort of locked in this echo chamber, and you only see the most engaging, surprising, wild things. And what's more engaging, surprising, wild than mis and disinformation? It spreads really quickly. And so you see a lot more of it now than you would have seen when you started Gamertag Radio. So the first thing in like thinking about all of that, the first thing is stay ahead of your emotions. If you start feeling really angry online, the best thing is to keep in touch with your emotions. If you feel like really mad, really upset, or you want to say, I was right all along, then that is a really good sign that what you're looking at might not be totally true, because the world isn't just, black and white. You're not always going to be right. And so that's the first thing. The second thing I say is, like, if a clip is like a video clip is less than 10 seconds, then you need to take more than 1 minute to investigate it, because like the shorter the video clip, the more context is missing from it. So, I always try to keep on top of like clips and things like that. And it's really easy to figure out whether something is real or fake, honestly, just by looking at who posted it and reading like either the Wikipedia page about them or, like finding out the type of things that they share on like X don't go to X, but like the things they talk about on Twitch. Are they an expert? Like, do they have PhD behind their name? Are they a scientist? So what I always say is find out who's behind the information, find out like what is the evidence they're trying to share with you, the stats, the data, statistics. Did it come from like a real research paper? Is it legit? So I think I pretty much, when you see something that makes you feel a type of way online, ask who's behind the information, what's the evidence, and what do other sources say. That's
Sure.
key. It's key for spotting misinformation.
Who's behind the wheel, right, Alex?
Yeah.
Who's driving it? I'm sorry.
And you know what's hard too, Dave and Alex, and I even have family members that are always sharing things thinking that it's real. They'll share it to like WhatsApp and all these other applications, so, and it's so hard for them to understand like, hey, how do you know this is real or not? So that's why it's good for us to do more research before sharing that to like our friends and family.
Yeah, that's what I try to do with my videos. We identify what people got wrong about something, and then we identify how they got it wrong. And then the third part is always saying, well, here's how to avoid it next time.
Dave, so quick question to you, man. What was it that made you decide to join MediaWise? Be part of the ambassador program.
Sure. I mean, for me, it was kind of a no-brainer because I started, or rather, my journalism career was kind of taking off when I got on TikTok in 2019, and TikTok is obviously still around and a big force of both information and misinformation. But especially at the time, there was just really there's maybe three other news outlets on the app. And so I was spending a lot of time just kind of explaining to people what they got wrong about any given event and in a very, non-condescending way. And I think that's really important too. That's a big part of all of this is that a lot of people, they might fall for something and that's very normal. I fall for stuff too. And especially, but if they posted it, that to some degree, psychologically, they've doubled down on it. It's hard for them to admit they're wrong once they've already posted it. So MediaWise is really good about kind of giving you the tools to understand that and kind of become a better sort of almost your own online ambassador, as a MediaWise ambassador. That's basically my job. I've been doing that now for 6 or 7 years with you guys, Alex. Is that right? Something like that.
Yeah, it has been a while. Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Alex, how can people that are watching, how they could also join and help out to spread the word?
Share our stuff. I mean, so what we're doing today has always been the mission. The reason we were on TikTok and the reason why someone like Dave was on TikTok is because that's where the audience is. I mean, the thing is this year was the first year that more people got news from social media than from broadcast TV for the first time in history.
Yeah.
And so our goal has always been when I started the TikTok, which if you go back, you can see I did the first TikTok for MediaWise. It's very crappy. The idea was, all these teens are on TikTok. We need to be there. We need to be fact checking there. And so if you're on follow MediaWise on TikTok, follow us across all social, Instagram, YouTube. I'd love to get into more long form on YouTube. And Dave, that's something that you do really, really you, and you're going to get into that more, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're about to start a long form series, hopefully end of next month. And basically, conceptually, it's just a longer form of what we do already with the misinformation, where we're going to take, one of the biggest stories of any given week and what people are getting wrong about that story. Conceptually, right now, we hope that what's going to be is that people will submit, hey, I saw this thing online. Can you tell me if it's true or not? And we're just going to have an expert come on and explain if it's real, and then also kind of get into, that story itself and how that misinformation is spreading. So we're excited to turn that into a longer format and hopefully, kind of bring in everyday anyone online to be like, hey, my grandma sent me this. Is it real? And then we can interview their grandma too. So I'm excited about this long form series and expanding that.
Yeah, Alex, we were talking earlier about what do you do when you see misinformation out there in the wild? How do you suggest people address it when it's not so wild, when it's people close to them? I know, for instance, I'll have family members send me a picture that they saw on Facebook and say, see, this is happening, but there's absolutely no other information to back it up. How do you kind of help them come back to reality?
The first is to sort of try to pick your battles, try to play the tape forward. Is it how is this person going to react when you address it? Is it worth it? How harmful is the mis or disinformation? So my wife rides horses, so she interacts with a lot of people who have access to ivermectin, and which is horse paste that people have started taking to cure COVID and other ailments. And so she interacts with people who are kind of doing dangerous things based on misinformation. And in that case, she doesn't call them out, but she like addresses it. Like, hey, you know, the science is not settled here. Here are a few sources that you can read up to get more information about it. And the key is to try to address it in a way that you think will be most welcoming to them. So, like, if there's someone who never reads a newspaper and, like, you know, doesn't trust quote unquote mainstream media, don't send them like a New York Times story that says that this, whatever they're talking about, is mis and disinformation. See if you can find something on like a platform that they're familiar with. You know, maybe there's like, some responsible streamers like YouTube who share factual information, or send them to Dave's TikTok or MediaWise's TikTok. So, you know, and if you're going to do it, try to do it in person. Avoid getting into like a flame war online or through text message. It's just, things get really misinterpreted via text. So in person, or if you have to, like over the phone, if it's something that you really got to talk to them about. But I will tell you, like, people, one of the things that I saw online that really kind of, a light bulb went off is I'm in all these weird Facebook groups for reasons I do not know, and I'm in a Facebook group for long haul truckers for some reason, and you know, they share their meals and stuff like that. And,
I love it.
And one day somebody came in there and was like, hey, don't you guys notice there are fewer love bugs these days? I bet it's all the chemtrails. And, you know, which is like a conspiracy theory. And there were all these truckers that jumped in and were like, no, you're an idiot. There are plenty of love bugs. I literally just saw them out on the road when I was driving. I have to clean my, these are little like black bugs that get all over your windshield. And then I would go to these truckers' Facebook pages, and it was like, just like the craziest conspiracy theories ever. But like their lived experience helped them debunk mis and disinformation that was being shared about like something that they experience every day. So that's why we partner with ambassadors like you all, because you know your communities and like you share the lived experience of your audience, and so you are the best vectors for good information, better than me, you know, like jumping in, you know, dressed like Chappell Roan here and trying to tell people what's real and what's fake.
Yeah, you know, I also been seeing a lot of AI content too. Like, I always feel like AI for me is like a tool because it helps me to fix some mistakes that I have when I'm doing like editing or anything like that for like the podcast, right? But also I feel like people also been taking advantage of that to create some, content that is going to spread because it's fake and people are going to get angry and all that. So how can we also learn from that too, Alex?
Well, where do I start with AI? I mean, I think that we're in this stage not unlike when the internet itself first came to be, where it was just like no one, we all understood how it did to some extent, but I didn't even understand how it worked, and it was moving so quickly that you had to sort of catch up with that. So we're in that catch-up phase, and that catch-up phase is not just you, the user, and the people that the videos you watch, and it's also, you know, from a larger scale, it's government and politicians and people who make these policies. So we're in this moment right now where there's just a lot happening with AI, and some of it's regulated, some of it's not, and some companies are more transparent and some aren't. So I really encourage a level of skepticism whenever you watch anything, not like, you know, total pessimism, but just to recognizing that maybe this could be AI is a really good way to approach something. And then also, there's another side to that too, where I'm seeing this a lot, and I've made a couple of videos about it, where people will comment, this is AI or this is a bot, just to things that they don't like. So that's like an inverse version of almost misinformation, where you're starting to assume, well, if I don't like this, it must be AI. So I do think that you have to kind of do a gut check both directions at this point.
Yeah, that's called the liar's dividend. And I remember Claire Wardle, a misinformation researcher, she was warning about that way back in like 2018. Wow. As deepfakes started coming out. You know, politicians are going to start using the fact that this technology is out here to basically say, you know, I didn't say that. I never said that or did that.
Yeah. So that's something there's more and more tools that's slowly coming about, you know, like something that's, if it's AI labeled, you know, and actually and Europe's a little bit ahead of us, where a lot of content online has to be labeled legally AI. But places like YouTube are actively talking about how are they going to label more accurately different levels of AI and things like that. If from all the way from AI slop to what you're talking about, Danny, where I used AI to improve this, but I didn't create it from thin air, right?
Sure.
So we're in this stage right now where they're starting to develop the tools so that you, the user, have a better sense of what's actually real and not.
So when you see breaking news online, okay, we see that a lot everywhere. Mm-hmm. And actually, I know you mentioned that earlier, that the majority of people will get news now online, right? Like social media and everything.
Exactly.
What is the first thing that we should check to see if this is official or not? Is it a headline, the source, the comments, what?
Oh man, well, I guess it depends on the platform. But go ahead, Alex, and I'll jump in.
No. You go first, Dave, and then I can jump in.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the very first thing you want to check on is just, and this sounds so basic, but is this a verified account? Places like Twitter, already you should know the difference that Twitter does verification very differently, where you can pay for it. It's not necessarily a verified expert, but places like TikTok and Reels and YouTube still have a level of verification that you can at least click through and see how they were verified, which is really important. So just starting with their basis. But the most common thing too is that has been, I feel like, advice from MediaWise for many years is just to use multiple sources. Like you see a story, especially if you're having an emotional reaction to it, whether it's overwhelmingly positive or negative, to go and check, hey, how are their sources right about this? And something that I think is a really good way to kind of what Alex was talking about too with he follows the Instagram trucker page. Another version of that is just following other outlets, like, and understanding what kind of lean they have, conservative or liberal or anything. And that actually allows you, when you're looking up a story, to have a better sense of maybe where an outlet is coming from, and then when you can fact check it against an outlet that maybe talks about stories differently, that can be really helpful. So it's really a lot of just, and obviously that requires a little extra work. So taking a step back, looking to verify, just looking at a piece of content, also looking at who's shared it, who's commenting, who's, is there more context around the story? And Alex had also said that, like, the less context, the shorter video, the more skeptical you should probably be.
Go ahead, Alex.
I think there are a bunch of people over here worshiping an alien. I'm going to run away, actually.
Yeah, you don't want
to you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You don't want to get close to that.
So speaking of aliens,
very good.
We're going to get some documents coming out soon. So you're going to want to be very, very skeptical when you see these documents coming out, because what's happening, and we've seen this with, like other big like document drops is, and I think this is a perfect segue because I do see this alien just like hanging out with these dudes over here. Apparently the government is going to declassify, documents about UFOs. And what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of people sort of screenshotting things and sharing it with like breaking news. And these are people who are like, they might not be reporters. They might just be dudes on Twitter trying to get like that creator money. And so you're going to see a lot of people sharing documents without context. You're going to see a lot of people sharing screenshots that may not actually be in the documents. And so it's like, Dave said, checking out the source. And I go back to Wikipedia. Wikipedia has stuff on like everyone and any source you can think about. So that's one of my first places that I go to when I'm investigating a source, when I see like, hey, breaking, who is this person that's sharing it?
I have another question. This has happened to me, and I bet probably we too. Sharing something that we thought it was real, and then we realized, wait a minute, this news is not real at all. So, what made you guys decide? Like, wait, was it because of the comments? Probably somebody said something that got your attention after sharing that content.
Yeah, I usually, in a like a repost or something, like that's probably the best example I can think of. Or if I like quote tweet something or quote post on another platform, I'll get replies pretty quickly like, hey, this is actually, this may not be real, or this came from this person, I don't know. And so the first thing I'll do is sometimes there's a moment like, oh my God, I have to delete it right away. But I at the very least check, okay, I want to make sure that this person's coming from an honest place too. But I verified that at least the source I reposted is not something maybe reputable, and then delete it. And then in certain cases, if it's been out a while, post about it. Don't be afraid. I think it's really up to you if you want to sort of follow up and say like, hey, this thing I shared wasn't real. But I try to do that because I do want to be, one, transparent with my audience. I also, two, I like when I can have a moment to be like, look, I fell for it too. Like, this isn't, we're all human, right? Exactly. And understandably, sometimes people don't want to sort of tell on themselves, because then you could be met with an internet mob of like, you idiot. And that's fine, protect yourself in that way. But I do try to kind of not only say, hey, I got this wrong and here's why, or like, here's a link to something more helpful when possible. But I think that, the most important thing too in that is just kind of giving yourself some grace and understanding that this, I think every single one of us has fallen for something probably the last week, even if we didn't post it, just like, oh, that seems real. And then you're like, no, that was never real.
Yeah, I think it's just it's exactly like you said, Dave. In the news world, there's reputable news sources. Good news sources have a corrections policy. So if they get something wrong, or a journalist there gets something wrong, they have like an actual policy. They add a correction, et cetera, et cetera. In the world of like news creators, there's some that might have a corrections policy, others that don't. But what audiences want is they do want you to correct their mistakes. And actually, the funny thing is in the research that we've seen around how people feel about like creators versus journalists, a lot of young people say, oh, I like creators because they immediately own up to their mistake and journalists don't. And I'm like, what? Journalists, they do, we have corrections policies. But so, but in real time, I think that creators do have an incentive to like follow up and say, hey, I got this wrong. Yeah. Because it's their credibility, it's their trust. A newsroom has the trust of its. This guy's crawling around. This is weird. I got him.
Don't trust him.
I'm gonna go take his stuff though. Yeah. So I think creators rightfully recognize that your word is your bond. I mean, like this is like your reputation. Like your work depends on it. So
that's such an interesting point. Yeah, like I have noticed. Obviously, in the gaming space, it's a little bit more intense where people expect, I don't know, like expect that confirmation bias, especially because they see creators doing the same things that they feel like they're doing, right? They see us playing, they see us reviewing games, and they feel a lot more connected to what we do versus maybe more traditional news journalism. Everyday people aren't usually out in war zones or interviewing politicians. So like, what we do as gaming creators feels more accessible. And so people assume that they can come at it with the same perspective that we have. But Edward, what do you think some of the reasons are why it's important to remember that creators maybe have a different set of goals or maybe a different set of information than your traditional gamer or viewer? Because sometimes that relationship can break down. And unfortunately, like Danny and I have seen examples more recently where creators will say one thing, but then the audience takes an entirely different direction and almost blames us for misleading them.
Yep.
Oh, that's really interesting. Can you give an example of that? Like,
So there will be like, let's say a video game that comes out that a number of creators got early access to. And I'm saying creators specifically, like not gaming journalists, but creators like me and Danny. Yeah. Like we didn't go to journalism school. We don't have that type of training or approach, but we play a game and it's fun, right? And then it comes out and people don't like it. And then there's the assumption that we are motivated to lie or mislead the audience for some reason.
Like that's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, we struggle with that sometimes.
That happens a lot. That happens a lot.
That they just feel because you're not coming from a journalistic background that you're not.
That I guess like the difference of opinion means we're misleading or obfuscating facts, right? Like opinions being treated as facts.
Wow. That's really tough. I'll be totally honest. I've never thought about it from that gaming perspective before. That's really difficult. I mean, I'll just say for my sort of very weird space in this internet world as like a news creator who is like formerly with legacy media, but now on my own, I do think it's just like a day by day process of building trust. And sometimes people do just decide, oh, I don't trust this person anymore for any arbitrary reason. But the collective of just like every day being consistent and how you approach things does, I think, overall make a difference, if that makes sense. Like if you're, as long as you're approaching how you're doing your work the same way over time, people start to recognize that. And that sort of internet mob eventually dissipates because they realize, oh, we've been going after the wrong people, kind of, if that makes sense. Whereas the actual bad actors will continue to be bad actors, and you actually building evidence versus, someone who is just doing their job as a, creator or a gamer, right? I trust you guys for what it's worth.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
I'd follow you into a storm.
Well, and you bring up a really good point about like, the fact that people come to you and they trust you because like we talked about earlier, your lived experience, matches because you are a gamer. And, there was something that the Washington Post did for a while with Gene Park, and they were on Twitch, they were streaming, they were gaming. And I thought that was really important because, there are lots of gamers, and it's a community that is underserved by like traditional media. So,
sure.
That was something that I was like disappointed to see happening, and yeah, I just
Gene Park and the Washington Post were
so,
similar,
and so it is important to have people in spaces like this that that are sharing good information, because like people here deserve it.
Yeah.
I do have a question about this too. Like, I feel like now in gaming creators, we've been posting a lot of negative news, when they're sharing that to like their community. And I feel like the algorithm always shares that type of content, and you see less of like the real or positive news. Why do you think the algorithm usually spread that type of content more than the other ones, like outrage content?
Well, there was a study. This is like kind of a dated study, so I would preface by saying that this hasn't been repeated since 2018, to my knowledge. But the study was that like misinformation and disinformation travels 6 times faster than real information. So unfortunately, a lot of these algorithms are designed to exploit your outrage, even if it's to your point, like even if it's a true story. Those stories that are more emotionally, driven and effective, those are the ones that just do better overall. And that I'll say one thing too, just as a news creator, like I sometimes have to do a gut check of like, am I covering this story because I think it's important or because I think it's going to do well? And I really try to get to the important part, because sometimes I think there's an incentive just to do breaking news on any given story. We live especially in a time where like every day there's something wild in politics, right? But I really try to gut check too on like, let me make sure that I'm actually covering a story that's going to be useful and helpful and not just one of a million, like a drop in the bucket of the outrage, which isn't to say I don't want to take away from a lot that's happening right now that people should be informed about. But I think that you have to kind of have this understanding of like, am I sharing this because I just know people will share it, or am I sharing it because it's important? And so that's not really your question, but I do often think of it like from my lens, which is like, I want to make sure that I'm not adding to the problem as much as possible.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's also
you're able to self-examine that way. That's hard to do.
It's also the engagement too. Like, I think the more people share, like, or comment, I think the algorithm automatically will push that, just because the engagement that they see from the audience that's checking out that type of content.
Yeah. I mean, as wild as it sounds, people like to be mad online. It's I mean, that is like the whole basis of Twitter was you go there to dunk on people you don't like, Now I would never suggest going there, but I don't know, there's just something about rage bait that is just really engaging to people, because it's either really making you mad because of someone you hate, or really making you like mad because it's confirming everything you feel about the world. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you know what though, I kind of bringing it back to when I was saying like the collective of like what you all do, like your day to day is a part of a collective sort of tapestry of your work, right? Where as long as you're approaching everything the same way, people over time kind of build a trust and also understanding of you. In the same way, I also think that like on a day to day, you could do angry videos every single day, or like, feed into the outrage. And again, some of that is very valid. But I do think that like, it's a little bit, it's a bit of like a candy soda pop diet where like, yeah, that might feel really good as a user to get in real time. But over time, you actually start to like go, I actually don't want to be on this app anymore. I don't want to continue to be surrounded in all these stories that are overwhelming me, so that I'm doom scrolling. So I do think that like long term, there's people start to almost self-correct. Hopefully they do to some degree, and self-regulate on like, actually, I don't want to like, just be doom scrolling all the time and engaging with all this rage content. Yeah. I'm seeing that more and more too. I mean, I feel like there's at least an awareness now that even like 5-10 years ago, people aren't talking about it like they're talking about it like before, which is that they understand that maybe these social media apps, that there should be some level of my own self-regulation on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because like the newsfeed just made us passive consumers.
Right.
Just just, and like back when, we were growing up, Dave, probably.
Like 2 years
you would go
ago.
to you would go to a website, you would have to like go to a website. You post on forums that like required, you to like, you would pick out which threads to open, and it was all chronological. So it's not like, the threads in a music forum were picked by some, rich tech guy trying to keep you on there to make money. And so the internet used to be such a more creative and intentional place. I mean, it's still really creative. But it used to be just more intentional, and people were more conscious about what and how they were consuming.
There's a question here from Cypher. Thank you, Cypher, for the question. What do you think is the responsibility of creators with a platform to fight misinformation in their community?
Well, I can't tell other people what their sort of what they can or shouldn't do. But for me, I'll say that I think that community word is really important. Like, I do think a lot about like the community that we've built. For my channels in particular, we have like a lot of young people, especially young men. So I think more about what's my responsibility to that specific demographic, that community. And so I think about too, like, how do I approach this content in a way that will make sure it reaches them and connects with them, and it is also, most importantly, not condescending. That's how I think about it, is that if you are going to go, okay, I want to address misinformation, part of that duty is not just to do it, but to do it in a way that isn't condescending and is very much is direct. And also, in my case, I use humor as a tool, but just making sure you're doing it in an effective way and not just kind of throwing stuff at a wall and maybe making people feel shame for something that is again, very human.
No, this has been a great conversation, Dave. I hope we could do more of this, man, because I think from the gaming side, man, there's a lot of people that need to learn more about what's real, what's not, and not fall for the toxic content that we get to see a lot, especially in the gaming community. We try our best to have serious conversations about stuff that's happening in the gaming industry, and it's okay for us to share our emotions, but I also feel like we're falling to that clickbait content, that toxic stuff that people are always going to be sharing that, because they're mad, or there's like, that's the first thing that they see once they open up like YouTube or something like that, So I think this is a very important conversation that we should have more of this.
Yeah, let's please. Over time, I'll get better at Fortnite if we keep having it. So
I mean, we've been kicking butt.
Yeah, that's true. 3 for 3.
Yeah, we've been kicking butt. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I do have to jump out, but thanks guys for having me. Really, let's do this again. Man. And it's been great to honestly, sincerely. I mean, I was being sincere before, but especially now, I really haven't known much about the gaming community up until like we've been preparing for this. So I'm excited to learn more. And hopefully even make some videos kind of addressing your world. So
yeah, we'd love to help make that happen. Part of the beauty of being ambassadors for MediaWise, we can share resources and make everything better.
Dave, before you leave, can you share how people could follow you and also follow your content too, man? Because I think your content is amazing too. It's very hilarious, but educational.
Professional.
You got a chat from Share Love saying they
thanks,
love,
Share Love.
I
love Share Love now.
Share Love said, "I'm so late to the chat, but hi, Dave. You're so iconic."
My fan, she's here. So that Share Love and others can find me at Dave Jorgensen on basically every platform. On Instagram, it's Dave Jorgensen1 because there's another Dave Jorgensen in Texas who's a country singer, and he took my name.
Oh, that's not you? Okay.
But otherwise, I'm Dave Jorgensen1 there. Everywhere else, Dave Jorgensen. And thanks again. And here I'll eventually change my gamer tag name as well, and you'll be able to track me there better.
Definitely.
Dave chat wants to know if you're gonna start streaming on Twitch now.
I mean, yeah, it'll probably just be like me building a Sims house, but why not? Let's do it
right now, right?
Yeah, I'll put it in the link tree. All right. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no problem, man. No problem.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Yeah, Alex is still going to be joining us here.
Actually, if there's still questions coming in, I'm like,
definitely.
I feel like there are actually. We have another one.
We do.
We do another one from Cypher of Tears. Shout out to Cypher. Thanks for joining.
Asking some great questions here.
They asked, how can we encourage civil conversations about politics in our communities? I know that's something that we don't have as much difficulty with because our community is a little bit more established and maybe older folks who are used to conversing and disagreeing with humanity and not becoming inflamed or harmful to one another. But maybe even for newer creators, like, what are some ways they can ease people into those healthy discussions without going off the rails?
Great question.
That is a very good question. I mean, the thing is to sort of, you want to imitate the behavior that you want to see in your community. I mean, like your values and your ethics and how you talk about the news, and that rubs off on your community. And like at first people might be hostile if you start trying to steer conversations to be a little bit more civil. But in the end, like your audience, which is really cool, and it's what we don't really have as much in journalism, is your audience has a relationship with you. You know, like the podcasters that I listen to, they really identify with, and you know, and so it is like a really big opportunity and good opportunity for creators to be able to be good models of civil conversations, and you know, just modeling good behavior. And trying to not just do things for the algorithm. I think the problem here is a lot of the economics of this industry are sort of built around engagement. And so what I hope is, you know, nonprofit organizations like the ones that work with us and Dave are starting to recognize how creators like yourselves, how important you are to the information ecosystem. And so what I'm hoping is like, you know, funders get more interested in supporting independent creators and, you know, toolkits to help independent creators, you know, do more research and have civil conversations. And so, you know, when I'm speaking, you know, take this all with a grain of salt because I know how the economics of content creation is. But I think just modeling good behavior in the face of the algorithm could have a real impact for any creator.
Yeah, let us, if you guys have other questions, please feel free to post them here and we'll try our best to read it too, man. We only have like 20 something minutes or so.
Yeah, about 20 minutes.
Yeah. Now, Alex, I know that, you know, once we get to see content, you know, good or bad out there, why is it the extreme content spread so faster than the accurate ones? Is it because of the emotions from people when they get to see that type of content or headline or anything like that? Or is it because of the algorithm that, like we said previously, rewards that type of stuff? It will be easy for us to see it more.
Well, it's both. The algorithm was really kind of designed around our demand for seeing extreme and inflammatory content. I mean, I think, you know, we talked about it a little bit earlier where people kind of, a headline that really angers you or surprises you is always going to be something that you're going to want to click on and read. And that is just the core of how the web works right now. And so, you know, over the years, the algorithm has sort of adapted to the demand for extreme content, while at the same time creating sort of incentive for more supply of extreme content. So it's just like we've been stuck in this cycle, and the online experience has gotten worse and worse and more extreme and more hostile. And what you're seeing is like tech platforms, unfortunately. But it's sort of the infrastructure of the web now, unfortunately. So that is why you see extreme content spread more quickly.
By the way, thank you to the mods for helping me fix up the stream. I don't know why we were having issues earlier, but I think it's been running smooth ever since we made that change.
Yeah,
so
shout out to our mods, Cypher and Arctic, holding it down.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
that is like the most frustrating thing in the world when the technology.
I know it's all good. This won't be the last time, you know, because I think this is a very, very important conversation. And we've been having this type of conversation for a while in our community, because we get to see this all the time.
Yeah.
You know, of other people spreading, you know, news that is not real at all, you know. So, and it hurts because it will hurt the creator, will also hurt the studios that work on these games, you know. So it's very important to do our research and make sure that we're sharing something that is facts, you know, that's all facts, you know. So
yeah, and we always said from the beginning, and you know, even from when I first started back in 2019, is like the online world. It feels like everyone is so distant, and you know that's why everyone's so mean to each other online, because it's, you know, like when you're in traffic, you just kind of you don't see that person, you're not interacting with them to their face, but the real world. Heavily.
Can you tell us a little bit more just about how MediaWise started? Because, I mean, I know Danny and I and all of our friends in our group chats have had conversations, endlessly about like, oh, it's so frustrating when people take things the wrong way, or, this narrative starts going further and further and we know it's not true. But like, what was the turning point for MediaWise and actually taking steps to do something about it?
That's a great question.
It's an awesome question. So, there was sort of this misconception that young people, because they were raised with the internet and raised on tablets and on computers and on phones, that they were good at navigating the internet. You know what I mean? And so, there was a 20s. No,
it's okay,
Dave.
We'll be back.
It was all Dave. But there was this misconception that I grew up with my parents saying, don't believe everything you see online.
Yeah.
And I think there was this misconception that all young people were just incredibly talented digital navigators or what have you. But they did a bunch of studies and found, like the Stanford History Education Group did a bunch of studies, and they found out that, young people were getting duped online all the time.
Wow.
For example, like a website about climate that was actually created by an oil company, they would fall for that. They didn't know how to do the research on it. So Stanford studied how fact checkers navigate the internet and found out that they like kind of bounce all over the place. They do something called lateral reading. And MediaWise started kind of with Stanford and with the local media association through a grant from Google with the mission of, okay, now we know this is a problem. Misinformation was like a huge issue during the 2016 election. So let's get out there, and our goal was to reach 1 million teenagers with media literacy resources through the Teen Fact Checking Network and through others. So we hit that 1 million, and then we just have not stopped. We expanded to, like, after I started, I wanted resources for older adults because people were telling me at these schools I was teaching, hey, do you have something for my aunt or uncle? They're like, they share misinformation online all the time. And so we kind of just like have evolved as the problem has evolved over the years. But it was certainly like people started to recognize how much of an issue it was when we started in 2018.
When you all are like working on putting together these resources, and I've noticed you've been like casually referencing like all these articles and people who make it their full-time job to figure this stuff out. How does MediaWise get all of that information and put it together?
Well, we have a very awesome team, but from the beginning, we have always worked with academic researchers. So like at the beginning, it was Stanford History Education Group. We have a really good partnership with Stanford University. And then I think everybody on the team is just very smart and very curious about this problem. So we just spend a lot of time thinking about it. It's really good that we're based at Poynter, because Poynter is home to PolitiFact and the International Fact Checking Network. So like from the beginning, we sort of had the best resource, like the best starting point we possibly could to start putting together all these resources. And, we learn as much from the like ambassadors like you guys as we do from any of the research that we do, So like from the beginning, we partnered with like Joan London, and I learned about the issues that were affecting older adults with Dave, and talked about the things that he was seeing on TikTok. And now here I am dressed as Chapel Roan and Fortnite, learning about the issues that are impacting like your audience. And so it's really cool. So we sort of learn from the community, and that's always been really important to us. And that's why we partnered with you both.
That's awesome. So gamers make the world a better place?
I have to say yes.
You heard it here first, guys.
You guys, because we're not the only gamers that you guys also work with, right? As there's other ambassadors too that are also part of MediaWise Ambassadors program.
Yeah, we have Brittany, who is hopefully watching along on the stream. She can probably help me out in the chat. But we have like a lot of ambassadors. I think at this point like 20 plus. And when we originally started, so John Green was one of our first ambassadors, who's author, and he was big time YouTuber. And we realized back then, like, kids were spending a lot of time on YouTube, so we had to partner with YouTubers. So we partnered with him and Destin Sandlin, and then Lester Holt, who, like, a very famous journalist. He was among our first ambassadors. So it's kind of evolved over the years. It's usually journalists, but I'm always really excited when we're able to partner with ambassadors who bring us a new audience that,
Well, that's awesome. We got to get Lester Holt in a game of Fortnite.
Oh my God.
That would be great.
That would be the funniest thing in the world.
That would be great. Yeah, the legendary weapon. Awesome. Yeah, and also for those who are watching, what other streamers should we invite to talk about this type of topics? Please let us know. That would be great. Very great to do this in the future too.
Yeah, we should definitely do more of these.
Yeah. So for sure. So what kind of the question for you? So what, you talked about what kind of mis and disinformation do you see a lot of, in this world?
Oh, from the gaming side?
Yeah, from the gaming side.
And Bree, please help me out too, because I know you see a lot of other stuff too. But for me, I see a lot of misinformation of like for example, we go to a lot of events, right? And sometimes people will say we got paid to talk positive about a game or something like that, which is false. That has never happened.
Not once.
Never happens. For my 20 something years that I've been doing this, that has never happened.
We'd be making a lot more money if that were happening.
I was gonna say,
I'll be driving some nice cars. That was true. But no, for real, when that happens, we try our best to share hey, that's not true. Sometimes even when I take a picture at a studio, they would say something like that too. Oh, look, they're going to say something positive just because they went to the studio. I'm like, that's not true. So we try our best to share the truth as much as possible. But sometimes it's really hard to control that because like you were saying earlier, I think rage bait, the negativity, people will get angry and they share that and they have their own opinion about it, even though it's not true at all. But we try our best to fix that misinformation out there, so.
Something else that's maybe even more harmful for the gaming industry, which is really frustrating for a lot of content creators who just care about it doing well, is just assumptions that the audience can start running away with. Like maybe a certain game was purposely given preferential treatment in an award show, or maybe because funding came from a specific VC that a game was set up to fail, or things like that, which on the surface seem, maybe just like a one-off gaming conspiracy that people can toy around with and maybe even just brush off. But on the other side of it, a lot of these things in these narratives impact people's jobs. And there's stuff that happens in gaming, like review bombing, where if the audience decides that a lot of people want to go and give a game a negative review when it comes out or even before it comes out, sometimes that impacts the studio and they actually have to take action based on that. And people don't get the compensation that they needed in order to keep everything running as they intended to. And sometimes people are even let go. And it's really a difficult situation for us as creators because a lot of times, we want to be honest about a game. But at the same time, if the audience has a different opinion on it, they can, like we said before, sort of lose a little bit of their trust in our opinion and think that it's not an opinion, that it was something that was planted.
Exactly. By the way, before we continue, shout out to Ari Summers and also Greg Chun. They're also gaming ambassadors, part of the MediaWise ambassadors.
I'd love to hear their experiences with their audiences for sure.
Yeah. So Alex, that's what's happening in our side in the gaming world. I mean, there's a lot of other things, but recently, what Reed just mentioned, that just happened literally a couple of days ago.
Wow.
A couple of days ago. That was a big conversation when we were at DICE.
A
lot of conversation about that was coming up.
Interesting.
Yeah, the review bombing is especially harmful, and it's really disappointing to see, and it's hard to address it, right? Because the audience has their voice, and customers have the ability to review things, and when the system allows people to review things without playing them, there's really not much that can be done about it.
Yeah, very different world, right, Alex?
Well, I mean, it's basically because we deal with this in the journalism world with coordinated troll attacks. So
right, exactly.
So I was on a podcast last year with a pal of mine, and we talked about sort of the history of Gamergate because Pointer's doing this as celebration of 50 years of journalism. And so we identified, what were the huge turning points in journalism, and what were the defining moments? And Gamergate ranked up there because it was something that was really tied in with the media. And it was something where you saw this sort of online coordination, misinformation result in some really terrible things in real life. My friend Ren, who I was on the podcast with, he was on a panel about it down in Miami, and someone called in a bomb threat.
Oh my God.
Okay. I think I remember that. I was living in Miami when that happened. Years ago.
Yeah,
Yep,
man.
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
And so it's good to see the discourse seems to have improved a little bit, like from back in those days, but it does sound like there's still this sort of coordinated harassment. And, mis and disinformation are tied so deeply into coordinated harassment and online manipulation. That the review bombing is just a perfect example of that maybe people think is not as harmful as, doxing someone or swatting someone. But it's like you said, it's ruining people's livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And thank you to the mods who are making sure we have that information in chat on how you can help make that better, right? How you can access MediaWise's resources in order to fight misinformation.
Yeah, and this will be the last round because Alex has to go.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to keep playing, but I do this stupid thing where Fridays are usually pretty easy for me. So I'll schedule a meeting then. I have 4 meetings after this.
Oh man. Well, you can tell them that you're carrying the team.
Yeah, you're helping us. Thank you. Yeah. I'm glad that we had this conversation, man, because this is something really important to us. Gamer Tag Radio, very important to us. And also from a lot from our gaming community too. So I'm glad that we had this type of conversation, and hope we could do this again.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to do this again, and it is. I mean, this is where these are the spaces we need to be in. These are the spaces journalists need to be in. Oh man, we're getting. There's people up on that.
Yeah. I know earlier you mentioned about Gene Park. He's a good friend of ours too, Gene Park.
Yeah, and I hope he's doing well. I know he had to take a little bit of time off, but he actually came and talked to our Teen Fact Checking Network one time, and they had just like a blast with that. Yeah, I might have to drop now, but this was a lot of fun. Please have us on again. I'd love to do it. I think highlight was Dave and I blowing up a hot dog truck. But no, seriously, the highlight was talking to you both and hearing your perspective. And
sure,
yeah, we're so lucky. I'm proud to have you as MediaWise ambassadors. So please keep up the good work.
No, thank you so much. Thank you to you and the team for giving us the opportunity to join too, and for us to talk about this type of topics again. And so
yeah, we'll do this
our
again,
best for sure.
All right.